On this Monday with HR2025-2026, me, Ribea Elise, with business restructuring. We want to listen to the legislative acknowledgement that are our responsibility when we acknowledge the office business communication line that all offices are built on. When we today talk about responsibility, then we today talk about adhering. We don't only today focus on acknowledgement and on responsibility with legislatively the circumstances in countries. We focus today with responsibility. We therefore focus today with acknowledgement and adhering to all that the office business holds office on. When we talk about all that the office business holds office on, then we talk about, like we've mentioned in one of our videos in the year 2024, we talk about 100% computerized acknowledgement. When we talk about 100% computerized acknowledgement, then we talk about all that the earth are built on. And when we acknowledge all that the earth are built on, then we acknowledge all people in acknowledgement to the 100% computerized legislative acknowledgement under the office business. When me, Queen Ribea Elise, today focus on the legislative acknowledgement, the responsibility, the adherence, that therefore then equalizes to then we equalize the communication line in exactly to 100% responsibility in the communication line. Responsibility becomes that are the director's responsibility, but that are also the employee's responsibility. When the director is responsible in the communication line that they hold office on, that their business are acknowledged at, that their business are acknowledged with, that their business are therefore acknowledged by. Therefore, I educate on my Evoke Instagram, Facebook educational seasons education. Therefore, the responsibility to acknowledge all businesses that forms part of your office business communication line, that are for us a telephone line that we pick up. For the business director, it's the complete computerized office acknowledgement that he has a legislative responsibility to adhere to. For me on my journey, it was the WEE. It was the BEE. It was the WRS. Workplace employment and employer responsibility, WEE. Workplace employment and employer responsibility. That for South African government was the Black Economic Empowerment responsibility, the acknowledgement. For me, Queen Ribea Elise, in my journeys communication that are complete under the Human Resource Office, it is the WEE, the Workplace Employment Employer responsibility. That the employer have a responsibility to acknowledge all communication lines. There are all telephone acknowledgement communication lines that the business computerized office builds office at. That the business computerized communication builds office with. That the business computerized communications build office by. And then in acknowledgement to all that, therefore the responsibility becomes a legislative adherence. Then the computerized communication that the business office are built on does not only acknowledge the businesses that the business office has to make business with, but it acknowledges in its complete business structure that we call structure, leading this generation the structured education. The education that are not only for you, the human resource legislative teams, the procedural writing, in accordance to the office procedure. We have to hold business with this business, and this business. But in accordance to our responsibility that we have to adhere to, the office communication line includes this business, this business. Not we only hold business with this communication line, this business communication line, this business communication line, no. But our responsibility are to adhere to this communication line that forms part of our telephone lines, to hold communication with this communication line that also forms part of our communication lines, and then therefore to hold communication with this communication line that then or therefore also forms part of our communication lines. And when your telephone structure is so complete, and your business procedural structure should be as complete as your telephone structure. When you open the telephone book and you see all businesses that forms part of your business group, and your business group's computerized office are so thoroughly implemented, so thoroughly constructed, that adherence and responsibility does not become so difficult like how the poverty circumstances on earth are. Adherence and responsibility becomes acknowledgement in all that we learn about our business office communication line. It then therefore becomes acknowledgement. And acknowledgement are of utmost importance, like we educate on all our Evoke business pages. Like me, Queen Ribea, educate on my Evoke journey. For me to be introduced in the factory to all the employees was for me, Queen Ribea Elise, in my human resource journey of utmost importance. Acknowledgement, did they acknowledge me in the office communication line? Did they acknowledge me in my office employment right? And that I therefore then also learn to acknowledge them. Because have we all then been employed at the same employment office and we form part of the home communication line that I acknowledged in a business office, then lovely lots of houses fell short in the food provision that countries are having to be provided for. Me, Queen Ribea, saw with my own eyes the poverty that lots of South African houses fall short on. Because have we then had to enter the business process in order to be provided with food? When food provision can be in so many different ways, in acknowledgement to all that me, Queen Ribea Elise, experienced on my journey, to all that my Queen Sana George Villani introduced to me on the journey. People's poverty circumstances that me, Queen Ribea Elise, were introduced to. Not so that someone else want to come and explain me, Queen Ribea Elise's human resource journey better than myself. And then who am I then? In all acknowledgement, the Bible would say. If I have walked the journey, why should me, Queen Ribea Elise's business communications, the whole time be acknowledged in someone else's house? If someone else are born in the communication line in South Africa, why don't they have the food that the communication line provides? Because the same computerized communication line that I acknowledged in the office are the same computerized communication line that all of us on earth are being born through. And when we are all born in the same communication line, and the communication line have built so greatly, then we all have a right to be provided for. And then it's not so difficult for parliamentary officials, for parliamentary houses to do the communication line right. In the communication line, sometimes they're really only a telephone line. It's really only contacting someone. It's really only making sure that someone has a plate of food. It's really only sometimes knocking on someone's door, getting the communication to someone else to make sure that someone else also provided in it. And it's not so difficult. My Queen Mamini was on a church Philander used to walk door to door. Educating, it's not so difficult. When this communication line belongs here also, then kindly make sure that the person also gets what they acknowledged in the birth womb. And our legislative responsibility then therefore acknowledges all that we are introduced to on our journeys. And when you come to the grocery store, then you are introduced to someone else in the grocery line. When you get to the post office, then you are introduced to someone else. When you get to the library, then you are introduced to someone else. The communication introduces us on our journeys. Apostrophe, we educate on a work business. Apostrophe, the introduction. Queen Sana George Philander used to take me and say, Queen Ribea, this is now this auntie. This is now this auntie. This is now this auntie. And we are all provided for under the same communication. And when we are all provided for, then we all have a right to acknowledge our right of responsibility. Being responsible in all that we learn that our countries are built on. And it's not so difficult to be responsible. In tsunamis, in cyclones, these years countries learn, respond in all acknowledgement, so that the complete communication, computerized communication can be right. And therefore, legislative adherence, legislative acknowledgement, legislative responsibility are of utmost importance. And when we react responsible under the computerized communication that our houses are built on, that our offices are built on, when directors learn to react more responsible in it, then the computerized communication can even sense how you are feeling in your tummy. Or they can even feel when someone are hungry in the business communication line. Kinsana George Philander always used to say, Auntie, can I have a cup of tea? Can I have a plate of sandwich here by you? The computerized communication acknowledges, it introduces, and it acknowledges, and it responds. And when we have learned so much about it, then it's legislatively in acknowledgement when we adhere to be responsible in it. To make sure that someone else, when someone else's business forms part of your communication line, to contact the business that you learn forms part of the same computerized communication line that your business holds business on. And then the acknowledgement, 1 + 1. Acknowledgement, the introduction. Then acknowledges our complete 100 years. That's where we want to be at on this discussion on this Monday. Legislative acknowledgement, legislative responsibility, legislative acknowledgement. Under the office business.